Need to turn off the vibration.
Ready? Yep. Okay, I'd like to call the meeting of the MCAG Board for Thursday, February 21st, 2019. Call it to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And I will have the invocation by City Councilman Brian Raymond of Atwater.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day, and thank you for this time together, Lord. We pray that the directors be granted wisdom as they govern the affairs of our cities and our county, Lord, and that your will be done. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you. Roll call. As soon as you're back at your post.
As soon as what?
She's back at her post.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Ryan.
Director Aguilar?
Present.
Director Creighton?
Here.
Director Espinoza? Director Hogue? Director Lohr? Director McDaniel?
Present.
Director Murphy?
Here.
Director Pereira?
Here.
Director Silvera? Director Vialta?
Here.
Director Oliveira?
Here. And we have a quorum. Item 4, approval of agenda. We do have a change. Stacy?
Staff would like to request pulling item 21, which is the transit audit. It was just a error in the proper attachment, so we'll bring that back next month.
Motion to approve? Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carried. Item 5, public comment. Any item not on the agenda, if the public would like to comment, you're limited to 3 minutes. Please step to the podium, name and address. Okay, seeing none. Item 6, recognition of service to Robert McLaughlin. You want to?
Come on up.
Just do what Joyce says.
That's pretty cool. I'll sign my mayoral papers in Atwater with the mayor.
With the light on.
It's just
On the other side of him.
nice. So all the documents I sign will be with the mayor of Los Banos. Thanks, Mike.
I have a speech prepared.
All right.
Time's up. Yeah, oops. One it has this. This for, yeah. Thanks. And it's blue ink.
Yeah, I saw it.
So thank you for the recognition. I just want to briefly say that I really enjoyed my time with the Community Advisory Council. I was invited to show up, and previously I worked at Merced Medical Center. I've since retired, which you know, these guys thought I just bailed on them, but I did actually retire. So I came to the first meeting. I didn't really know what it was. I didn't really understand L-tip, S-tip, M this, that, and I'm sure these guys missed me as the director of the thing, because I always just said, can you tell us what that is first, because I don't understand it. But after a few meetings, I understood really what the purpose was, and that purpose was to give input from different levels of our city, of our county, on what we needed to be done and kind of the different venues. I mean, I worked at the hospital, so obviously I was thinking, okay, so, I mean, I'm looking at transit as far as getting people to and from the hospital, but there was many voices there, and they were all heard, and I know Matt and Ty and Joy all did a great job in helping us understand that. And so sometimes it was a little confusing, And sometimes I have to admit I didn't show up fully prepared for the meeting, but they caught me they caught me up. But anyway, I wanted to thank you guys and commend the staff for all that they've done. So thank you. Oh, and Stacy too. Yeah.
Okay, we'll move on to item 7, minutes.
I'll move to approve A, B, and C.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I hear a second?
You can get to read them.
Okay, we have a second. Would you like us to read them in perpetuity? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item 8, Citizens Advisory Committee report. Jean?
I'm Jean O'Coury, and it's a pleasure to be here and pleasure to be on this committee. And I agree, wow, walk in and everything's so organized and there's so many people that showed up in the meetings. But it takes a little while to learn everything, but the staff has been wonderful in explaining things. So I'm just going to give you a summary of what we did at our February 1st meeting. The committee recommended the approval of the MCAG Governing Board actions for the minutes of January 4th of the Advisory Committee, 2019 One Voice Program Priority List, Federal Transportation Improvement Program, the FTIP Amendment 3, Highway Infrastructure Program, HIP, and the purchase of the 4 heavy-duty wireless bus lift sets. Information given was MCAG, am I supposed to say MCAG, or MCAG newsletter for 2019, January, and calendar of meetings, conferences, and events. And it's really important we try to get the people out, the public out, and to get the message out, because so many people, I think they're just overwhelmed, and they really need to participate. So that's kind of been my goal. Announcements made were Harlan Dake noted that he will not attend the March CAC meeting, and he wanted to be sure that there was a vice chair appointment made at the next meeting. Now, I'm sure it's on the agenda. Renee Gutierrez gave a brief update from the San Joaquin Rail Commission during the public comment period, and our wonderful legal counsel told us about the Brown Act, which is something I guess we all need to review. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, now we're moving into one of our favorite parts of the program from Caltrans.
I'm a favorite now?
Yeah, as long as you keep building stuff.
Keep trying that then. Thank you, everybody. Before the meeting, I passed out a copy of my notes, so I'm not going to read every one of them through, but I will let you know that next month we'll be going down to the CDC to try to get funding to start construction on the 99 widening in Livingston, and hopefully if the funds come through, they'll be going out to bid in May for that project. And the other side on the southbound, they're looking at that one going out into construction, hopefully fiscal year 21-22. They're not at the same time, so there won't be a complete disruption of traffic while that's going on, so that's a good thing. They're looking at a resurfacing of 99 with a 40-year life concrete. They're working on the design of that. Hopefully that project will go in construction in spring of 21, and that'll reduce a lot of our wear and tear and maintenance if they use that kind of concrete, and hopefully that'll be a good thing coming out there. Other than that, we've got the state is working with the city of Gustine on the roundabout at 140 and 33, and the signalization of 59 and 16th Street down in Los Banos. And just a congratulations to the county. The county's finishing up the Walkable Winton planning grant project. It's about $150,000 for their planning out there, and we should be getting a final product this month and the last invoice and finishing that project up on time. But other than that, I didn't win the lottery, but does anybody else have any good news or questions?
Any questions? You better leave before they find.
Well, no, you got one.
Not a question, but Leadership Merced had asked for a contact at Caltrans, so I forwarded them your email and phone number. Sarah Hill would be who might call.
Okay. She hasn't contacted me yet, but I'll be on the lookout for her.
Okay.
Sarah Hill? Okay.
Hey, thank you. Item 10, this is for information and discussion only. It's the MCAG newsletter, calendar of meetings, conferences, and events, and the CalCog letter to the ARB. Do we have any discussion? Seeing none. Item 11, transportation planning and Measure V update. Matt?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. As you know, we're doing our unmet needs process that we do every year, and we concluded our 8 hearings. And I wanted to let you know that although the attendance at the hearings was kind of a mixed batch, but this year we have the new online survey, and we got a lot of comments through that survey. So I think it basically is fulfilling its purpose, giving more opportunities for people to submit their comments that the SSTAC, the advisory committee, will be able to look at all those comments. And a lot of them, as always, a lot of them do have to do with specific operational things with the transit service, and so those all get forwarded to them, and then the potential unmet needs get looked at by the SSTAC. They make a recommendation to you. So I think we're seeing some improvements to the process, making it easier for folks to be heard on what their issues are. And then the rest is Measure V stuff. So the regional project committee meetings that were going to be next week have been canceled. We're working on setting up the new times and dates. We'll let everybody know that. The annual report and event that public information and transportation teams are working on, we're all doing a lot of work on that. We want to have a really great report and event, so look for that coming soon. And then finally, just to let you know, we are looking at doing an amendment to the expenditure plan, an administrative correction type thing, sort of like what was done last year, and this concerns the Form 700s for the Citizens Oversight Committee. After consulting with council, that committee only looks at the expenditures after they've happened, and they don't do any input into the decision making. They don't have any financial, so far Form 700 isn't something that would be appropriate for that committee. It's just something that's in the expenditure plan, so we're looking at amending that. So it's very similar to the amendment that was last year, where it's just correcting some language, and we're reviewing to see if there's anything else like that should be corrected. But just wanted to give you a heads up on that, that we'll be issuing that amendment notice soon. And if you have any questions on transportation or Measure V, I could answer those for you.
Nope, looks like you're good.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to item 12, and this is whether to adopt the Federal Transportation Improvement Program Amendment 3, and staff presentation by Ty.
Thank you very much. Joey, how do I turn on that projector? Okay, thank you. I just have like 3 quick slides to accompany this item. So the FTIP addresses staff's recommendation for programming of CMAQ projects. CMAQ is congestion mitigation air quality. MCAG gets about $3 million a year to program to transportation projects that generate emissions reductions. So, and that decision is at the MCAG board's discretion, and that's why it's being brought up as in this item. So since CMAQ is a federal funding source, it needs to be programmed in the FTIP, the Federal Transportation Improvement Program. That's why you have this amendment before you. So I'm trying to take care of 2 things at once. So the board, the MCAG board, authorized staff to release the call for projects last fall with the deadline of December of 2018. So the jurisdiction submitted a total of 10 applications, most of them being bike ped projects. So staff looked at those projects and looked at the CMAQ funding capacities within the next 4 years. And the good news is that we have the funding capacity to program and move forward with all 10 submitted projects. So staff's recommending the programming of $4.3 million for all submitted projects, and that's the next slide here. So you have almost every jurisdiction getting a project funded with CMAQ. And this FTIP amendment also includes staff's recommendation for programming additions and adjustments to existing projects. So that's this slide here. And I highlighted some of those changes. So some of those additions to existing projects includes like construction programming for some of those projects. And some of the changes includes like moving out some of those projects because of the risk of delivery. Just be mindful that just because they're moved out doesn't mean they can't be delivered sooner. MCAG has the federal authority to advance projects to an earlier date if they're ready to move forward sooner. So, and those projects include CNG street sweeper projects that are held up by Buy America, and 2 City of Merced projects that just need some things to be finalized with their design. So, and like I said, because CMAQ is federal, all of this programming recommendation needs to be approved by the board in the FTIP.
Okay. Any comment from the public on this item? I'll bring it back to the board. Is there any comment or questions? If not, I'll look for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll move.
Moved by Supervisor McDaniel. Second. And we have a motion and a second to finalize a formal amendment to the 2018 FTIP. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Item 13th, another action item, Highway Infrastructure Program. Ty, you're still up?
Yes, thank you again. So the Highway Infrastructure Program, HIP, seems to be a new program. I've been with MCAG for 20 years, and this is the first time I've seen this. So it's a new program with actual federal dollars associated with the program that has been apportioned to the regions to use at the region's discretion. So there's actually $663,000 of this funding made available to the region to program to some eligible project, which includes like road construction or resurfacing or bike ped projects. It's very like the Regional Surface Transportation Program, the RSTP, that I bring before you every spring, except that unlike the RSTP, this HIP, I'm sorry for the acronyms, unlike the RSTP, this HIP cannot be exchanged for cleaner state dollars, so it stays federal. So, and with federal dollars, there are a lot of federal requirements associated with it. So it does not make a lot of sense to distribute these funds like the RSTP that we distribute to all of you on an annual basis. I thought that the better mechanism would be to look at existing federal projects and see if the funding could go to those projects with the clause that, you know, the jurisdiction that takes this money returns to the region the state exchanged RSTP for distribution in spring or summer. So there would be an 80% payback so of the HIP in terms of RSTP. Why is there 80%? Because with this federal fund, there's a requirement for 11.47% local match. So the 20% kind of covers that, plus the remaining 8.5% kind of offers a little bit of incentive to those two agencies to take over like the federal funding and the federal requirements associated with the federal funding. So staff is asking for direction to proceed with looking into these options in exploring those with the City of Merced and the County of Merced, because those two entities have projects in the FTIP that could potentially use these funds. And once again, if those entities, one of those entities is interested in those funds, they would repay back to the region this spring or summer the cleaner state RSTP funds that will be made for distribution to the remaining agencies. So everybody wins.
Sure.
Yes, sir.
Could, What? I was going to ask for public comment first. Oh. And I think Supervisor McDaniel was a step ahead of you.
Oh, you looked at me. Go ahead,
I
Supervisor.
heard you squeal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I spoke with Dana Hertfelter today regarding this item, and he says that the county does have an opportunity to be able to use this, and I think he had already spoke to you about it, or you guys had spoke about it.
I brought it to his attention, he expressed interest, but I wanted to make sure the board gives me direction to pursue that.
Right, okay, thank you. And he says that, yeah, we have actually a number of projects that we could utilize this on.
Great.
Thanks. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Hey, Director Villalta.
So tell me, what kind of projects is it has to be, can this money be used for?
It would be best used for already federalized projects because of like all of the federal requirements. I mean, there's like a thick stack of stuff that's required with federal projects.
And what is considered a federal project?
Anything with a federal dollar associated with it. So as soon as like you attach one federal dollar to a project, it becomes federalized, and then all the federal rules apply. There's a lot of rules.
So I'm not quite sure, but anything with our Pioneer Road bypass, would that, if there are any federal dollars attached to that, because we need planning money?
No, I'm not aware of any funding identified for that project.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. I just want to make sure we're not missing out on anything.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, is that going to be decided today where the money goes, or is just?
So right now, I'm just asking for direction to proceed with exploring those options with the county or the city of Merced.
Mm-hmm.
What I will do is, once that has been worked out, I will bring it back to the board for action.
Okay. So would it be too much to ask then to see if we're just missing any federal projects or anything that has federal dollars, and bring everything back that could be, and then the board could decide on that?
Can I, please, Mr.
Yeah,
Chair?
go ahead.
And I just want to clarify that this is a swap of funding. It's not new additional funding for any particular project. So this would be a swap of funding that is coming from another source and applying the federal money to federal projects, and then just swapping that out with another funding source. So there would be no new gain of additional funding for any particular project.
Right, yeah.
But there would be new gain.
I'm just asking.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
To provide clarification again, there will be a new gain to the jurisdiction receiving these funds, as well as for like the remaining jurisdictions who will get back the RSTP funds. So on top of what you normally get in RSTP every year, you'll get back a portion of that based upon population in this next round, which should be like May or June. So if you're looking for additional money for your roadway, the county, if they're interested, would pay back the regional RSTP funds, and then your share will be increased by a certain amount.
And I'm just asking, we look to make sure we don't miss a project from any entity.
Yes, sir.
That's all I'm asking for. And then when it comes back to the board, then the board can decide what's going on. So if we're overlooking possibly a project in another jurisdiction, just want to make sure everything is researched and we don't decide to do something with it today. And just go ahead with the motion for you to explore these options.
Yes, sir.
Is that fair enough?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay, was that a motion?
Yes.
Okay, moved by Director Villada, second by Mayor Murphy. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, you have your direction. Thank you.
Thank you.
No, I mean.
So with this is just...
Okay, item 14, the San Joaquin Valley Reauthorization White Paper. Stacy?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This item is a new approach that the Valley is taking. The current Surface Transportation Authorization Bill, FAST Act, is expiring in 2020. When we were in Washington, D.C. in September with the Valley Voice Program, we heard a few folks starting to talk about how the conversations around the next, about the reauthorization bill would start around this time once Congress came back into session. And they encouraged us as a region to consider year, formalizing the principles and the ideas we'd like to see in the next authorization bill in some form of a white paper. So MCAG took a lead role in putting this paper together on behalf of the San Joaquin Valley. The valley-wide directors, all 8 directors, have approved it as a discussion draft. It then went to the Regional Policy Council, who also approved it as a discussion draft, and both directors McDaniel and Villalta are our representatives on that council. So what I'm proposing is that we include it in our One Voice material for this year for 2 reasons. One, the core principles are solid principles that we would like to include as part of our transportation talking points as a local county, but also to be a partner to the Valley Voice program and to our Valley colleagues to really start to coalesce around some of these ideas as a region, and to represent them not just when we go back together, but when we go back individually as COGs as well. So the draft is a discussion draft. The intention is that we have the ability to tweak it as the discussions in Washington continue and ideas start to really shape around what this bill might look like, so that we can, modify the language or address any new ideas that are that come up between now and September. The idea would be it would be finalized sometime over the summer before we go back to Washington as a valley.
Any public comment? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board. Do we have any discussion on this or a motion?
Motion to approve.
Sure.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Chair, I would just like to comment on this white paper. It was very well done, and I'd like to commend Stacy on the work she did on it. Sure.
And Matt. Thank you.
Okay, item 15, approve the 2019 One Voice Program Priority Issue List. Mary Michael?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the board. We are marching slowly toward our One Voice trip to DC coming up at the very end of April. Our delegation, I believe, is pretty much set with the addition to the list in your packet of Councilmember Johnson Santos from Los Banos, who submitted her participant agreement after this was submitted. The TRB reviewed and approved the platform I'm going to go through with you today, that platform that several of you who are a part of the delegation helped put together, and also with a discussion of the Buy America waiver issue, which is included in the white paper you just adopted. So our next steps will be approving the platform today. At our meeting next month, we'll finalize the key messages before we head off to DC the month after. So you'll notice in this year's platform, the general topical areas are very similar to what you've seen in the past. In terms of transportation, we are still focusing on AME Phase 1B, passenger rail, Campus Parkway, the relocation of the Los Banos Airport, as well as promotion of autonomous vehicle programs here locally. In terms of economic development, we are looking to advocate for a stay of the proposed FCC rules, which deal with the installation of wireless infrastructure, which impacts many of your local jurisdictions. There's continued interest in looking at programs around public art and beautification, and all of the jurisdictions within the delegation were interested in opportunities for funding industrial park feasibility studies. In terms of natural resources, lots of focus on water, in particular drinking water, both supply and quality, and as well as surface water storage and flood protection enhancements. Homelessness and housing is always an issue of high concern for all jurisdictions, looking at opportunities for both the development of affordable housing as well as housing programs for homeless individuals. Public safety, lots of interest across the board with capital infrastructure, equipment, personnel, and veteran services, both benefits in healthcare, education, housing, and the associated capital infrastructure to be able to deliver those benefits. That is the proposed platform in a nutshell. I'd be happy to try to answer any questions you might have about that.
Okay, any public comment? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board. Any comment on the platform for DC?
Motion approved.
Okay, moved by Director Velada. Seconded. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Motion carried. Item 16, accept the Merced County Association of Governments audited financial statements for the year ending June of 2018. Nav?
Thank you, directors. MCAG actually had a good year in the general fund. They were actually able to redeem close to $500,000 for Caltrans from the 15-16 year and the 17-18 year. Staff and auditors also revamped the basic financial reporting. In the previous years, the STA and the RSTP was being reported as a governmental funds. In this financial reporting, we actually moved from governmental to fiduciary funds. Fiduciary funds are basically funds that contain resources held by the agency but does not belong to which belongs to another entity. The auditors also recommended staff to create an account for a deposit in transit. So any account that's we're moving funds from our checking account to our treasury account, but if we cut a check on 6/30 but it doesn't get deposited 7/1, they want to recognize that still as cash. So other than that, everything was good. Any questions?
Any questions? Any questions from the public? I'll look for a motion. We have a motion.
I'll second.
And we have a second to accept the audited financial statements. It was touch and go there for a minute. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item 17, appointment to the 2019 Ana Maria Fuentes Scholarship Selection Committee. Ava?
Actually, Ms.
Mary.
Garibay is out of the office today, so it's me again. The Ana Maria Fuentes Scholarship Program was founded over 10 years ago in memory of an MCAG employee who passed away. Since 2010, when the funds have been dispersed, 7 awardees have been given up to $1,000 annually for up to 4 years. And this scholarship is available again this year to a local high-performing high school senior from a high school in Merced County to go on to an institution of higher learning and hopefully come back to our community and be able to employ their skills. The application was released back in late October of 2018. The application closes in 1 week at the end of this month. So if you know of anyone that might be interested, feel free to pass them along a copy of our application or refer them to our website. We've received about 5 so far. The selection committee will meet in March sometime after that process closes, and that selection committee consists of staff, representative from the Fuentes family, as well as one MCAG director. The final selection will come back to the board for your approval in April, and the student will be notified by May 1st at the latest. So today we respectfully request the appointment of the board's representative to that committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I think we need that means we need a delegate from our board to sit on the committee. Any suggestions or volunteers?
I'm sure I nominate one. Is that? Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? You're elected. Good. Congratulations. Okay, let's go to item 18, the Citizens Advisory Committee Representative Appointments.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I'm happy to report that we have 3 people who want to be on our Citizens Advisory Committee. We're delighted to see people who are interested in participating on this committee. It's a great committee, provides a lot of feedback to staff as well as directly to you. So we're requesting that you appoint these 3 folks.
Okay, are any of them here today?
I don't think so. Nope. No.
Yeah, 'cause I don't have any problem with, making the appointments, but, we're just looking at a name on a piece of paper. It'd be nice to have a... What? somebody to, yeah, no, I mean, somebody to stand up for them. I mean, anybody can fill that out. You know, and I have no problem with appointing them, but I
We can add that moving forward to a requester here on their appointment.
yeah, I mean, it would be nice if they request an appointment, maybe to come and speak before it. Because right now, we're just voting for the name on the application. I don't want to make it so hard that it would discourage anybody from applying.
Okay.
Sure.
I've gotten to know Ursula Stock. Her husband came here to work at the university 4 years ago, and they have a business back east and a house and elderly parent. She just left yesterday to go back and do business there. I found her to be very involved, wanted to be involved in the community. She's volunteered with past planner Bill King, clearing the trail up in Heights Cove 3 times. Well, I'm with the Resource Conservation District. She's helped restoration with planting trees. She wants to be involved in the community. I highly recommend Ursula. And she has a botany background and management in services because they had a business. So.
Thank you.
Joe?
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. I do know, and I've worked with Yamilet from the Golden Valley Health Centers. She is the government affairs for Golden Valley, and as we know from our partnership with Golden Valley, that they are very engaged and very seen in the community, and I think she would be a great representative for the healthcare.
Thank you. Yeah. Oh, you're hidden back there. Go ahead, Lois.
I have a question. Do these, do the people need to live in Merced County?
I'm going to let Matt.
No, they do not.
They don't, huh? Okay.
I would have said yeah.
Go ahead.
Curious, why not?
I think in the past, everybody who's been interested in this community, in this committee, has had some sort of connection, strong connection in Merced County. So whether they live here or work here, do significant business, that sort of thing.
Volunteer.
I don't know that there's a reason why they're not required to, but I know that the practice has been that every single member has had some strong connection.
Thank you.
And it's something that we could, explore amending the bylaws if the board wanted to do that, of course.
Okay. Sure. I make a motion to approve then.
Okay, we have a motion to approve Ursula Yamilet and Michael Beltran to the Citizen Advisory Committee. A second?
I'll second.
Second by Supervisor McDaniel. All in favor? Oh, go ahead.
The motion didn't include Ursula Stock. I didn't hear. All three. All
Yeah, all three.
So motion to approve as recommended by staff.
Okay. We voted, right? Okay, move on to item 19, the Transit Joint Powers Authority for Merced County. Artis, tell us about the Transit Joint Powers Authority for Merced County monthly update.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Board of Directors. Excuse me. Just real briefly, our ridership numbers for last month was up 67,499 for the month of January. Overall, our ridership was up 11.9%. Measure V ridership was 17,653 for the month, a total of 84,279 from the month of September to January, and those numbers are up as well. And so we're still on an upward trend for that. As you know, we are installing our security system for the new operations and maintenance facility. We're about 3/4 of the way finished with that project, and staff has been working really hard on our scope of work for our new operations and maintenance contract, and hopefully by the end of this week we'll be putting out that RFP for our new operations and maintenance contractor.
Okay. Thank you. Any discussions or questions for artists or public comment? Now we'll move on to item 20. Now you're going to need some heavy-duty wireless bus lift sets.
Yes, sir. Thank you once again. As you folks know, once again, we've just completed construction for the new maintenance facility. With that facility, we have constructed 5 bays. We only had 1 set of working lifts, and so we're coming back asking to purchase 4 additional lifts, and that will make sure that we have 5 lifts operable, which will give us to achieve optimal number of lifts for our current fleet and for our future fleet. Also, with that, make sure that we're ready for our future buses as well. And so what we're asking for is for you to approve the executive director to authorize us to purchase those maintenance equipment lifts for an amount of not to exceed $196,000.
Okay, any public comment? If not, I'll bring it back to the board. Okay, we have a motion to approve and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, you have your lifts. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, item 21, accept the Transit Joint Powers Authority for Merced County audited financial statements for the year of 2018.
That's the one we pulled.
Oh, that's the one that was pulled. Okay, we get to move on to item 22, the Merced County Regional Waste Management Authority monthly update. Brooks?
Good afternoon. Just a few things to follow up on. The Restore contract, they're doing the litter collection on Highway 59 right now. It's coming out about every 2 weeks, doing a really good job so far. It's pretty wet, so we're not asking them to wade off the road, so they're not getting everything, but what's near the road they're getting pretty well and keeping up with it, so we're really happy with it, and hopefully we can expand this if they're willing to and you're willing to over to the Billy Wright landfill as well. Recycling contract is still, Republic is still taking the material, honoring the current rate, so nothing really new here to report other than it's still going. We are talking to some alternative vendors to try and get our estimate for our material, but we haven't gotten the firm numbers back yet. And the gas to energy project is the CEQA portion is underway, and so far we don't have any red flags to report. It looks very well. There's still some of the biological to review, so we're not totally out of the woods, but there's nothing significant, which is very good at this stage of the game. And I have a couple pictures here I'd like to show. Got some new pictures with the campus being expanded, so there's the gas system and the UC in the background. We are working on an amendment to the MOU. We had originally proposed that we're going to provide 2 generators and we'll provide heat and electricity because they really want the heat. And then we realized we'll have more heat as the campus expands, or we'll have more gas, excuse me, as the campus expands. And so we're negotiating the second tier of electricity only, no heat. So there'll be 2 prices basically when we end up with a power purchase agreement, one for heat and electricity and then one for just electricity. So we're working on that MOU right now. You'll see something hopefully in a few weeks on that, or maybe by the next board meeting. And then we've also got the design done for what it would, at least preliminarily, what it would look like at the campus, what we would add. So this is their existing not getting a pointer. Okay. Anyway, to the right, I'll just zoom in. The right of the screen, there's the lighter gray is the new building, what it will look like adjacent to their existing chiller and boiler system. So our facility is going to be actually much smaller than what they currently have. And if you've ever driven back to the furthest parking lot to the east side of the campus, that's called Mineral King Road, and it'll be right along that side. And so here's what it looks like close up, and we'll have an observation window and a little awning so that people, when they come by the campus, they can look in and see it all the time, and there would be a plaque there describing the partnership and the benefits of it. And it is kind of a fancy facade. There's some woven aluminum or things in there that we're planning into design, because the wall that it abuts to is actually a glass wall that they built. And if you've ever looked at their architecture, it's not inexpensive. It's elaborate and I don't know the proper terms here, but it looks pleasant and nice to walk by, so we're going to have to match that. Now, this is just a facade. It's just 3 walls. We won't have a roof, but the height has to be above any of the smokestacks, but no smokes, but the exhaust stack of the turbines. So anyway, when I get color, I really wanted color, but we didn't have that yet. So when I get color, you'll see that as soon as I get it. We just got these this week. So any questions about those updates? Okay, then lastly, the Phase 2B expansion at Billy Wright Landfill, we actually did build it, so this is kind of the before and after. So this is where it went on the west and north side of the existing landfill. And so here it is complete. And I know that doesn't give you very good perspective in this, so we have a drone now, and as it is flying and doing the survey work, it takes photographs as well. And so it will automatically stitch these together, so really no effort in this. We just tell it to run the program, and it gives us the images and makes this video. And I don't know why it's choppy here. It's normally pretty smooth. But this just gives you an idea of the size of it. And then here is the entrance ramp going down into it. And I just want to mention a thank you to Tetra Tech BAS engineers. They got this designed and permitted in months, and that's very difficult to do with 5 different agencies that we obtained the permits from. And then Wood Brothers came in with the low bid, and they were under our engineer's estimate, and they did a terrific job for us. Very good quality company. And so the cost of the bid was 5.1, and we weren't not exactly on time on budget. We were $12,600 over, and we were 9 days over. But that is 0.25% over budget and 9 days. I didn't do the math on that, but not much. And the point is, there was an abandoned oil pipeline, or one that had moved off the site. And whenever we were cutting and removing that, there was some oil left over, and they had to stop work and get that addressed. And then there was some garbage that was outside the limits of where the landfill was supposed to be. This was, 1970 something. So the survey wasn't accurate, or they went outside the survey, and we had to move that waste in. So we think it was pretty much a great, successful project. And one thing I wanted to mention, we just started tackling this. We need a new landfill, so let's build one. And so we went through the process, and we got to the construction phase, and one of the employees at work said, we've never done this before. And it never occurred to me that we had always been under the county professional services engineering department, public works, etc. So Regional Waste Authority staff have never actually done a project like this. So I think first time out, on time, on budget is pretty good. So we took them to lunch today. Okay, any questions about the expansion?
Any questions for Brooks?
Okay, that's it on the, oh, yes, sir.
The TRB, I understand there was a discussion about Republic's request for an increase for recycling.
Yes.
Can you share anything with us?
They requested an increase, and I think you're all aware of that. They requested an increase due to the China dropping out of the market, which was the world's leader in recycling. And so they've requested a number that we think is kind of high. We do think it's legitimate for them to ask, and so we're still investigating what a good number to come back to them with would be. But officially, I don't know that we've we haven't asked for a contract amendment. We haven't come to you and it would come and go through you. We just didn't want to come to you with their number. We thought we would come back with a better number. And then also, and in order to do that, in order for us to negotiate with them, I think we need to find out what some others are charging, so we don't just, pull a number out of thin air.
So we're going to still put money towards the survey to go out and get a consultant to...
Yes, and I actually started working on that, did some work on it today.
Okay. All right, because I kind of sunshine this, and I don't want to distract, because I know the attorney's going to stop me in a minute because this isn't agendized. So I kind of sunshine just with some people, and basically, they started asking the same question I did, is that, you know, we're an association of governments, and MCAG is Association of Governments, and there are only 3 of us recycling. So the high cost would have been $143,000 for Los Banos. I'm assuming since Merced is double the population of Los Banos, it could be $3 million for them for the increase in recycling plus part of the county. And they're asking questions why everyone else isn't recycling and why our 3 entities have to pick up the total cost. So I can tell you it's not an easy process for us. And so hopefully you can come back with some figures later, and we don't want to discuss it now, but we'll come back with figures later after the consultant, and we can talk some more.
Yes, and if I may, it is difficult to determine the value of what each jurisdiction does, because some jurisdictions are creating to the benefit of everyone, because we report as an entity for everyone. But some of the jurisdictions benefit us because they have a large commercial diversion program, or you have a curbside blue bin, but everybody has the green bin, which by weight is one of the biggest contributions, and that's why all the jurisdictions went in with the green can service, because we're composting that material, and it's a good, high quality, low cost relative program. So we don't, and you're correct, we don't have the numbers of what is the most bang for the buck and which agency is contributing the most, but we are very sensitive to the fact that 3 of the jurisdictions are paying for the blue can collection service and now have to pay for recycling due to China.
Yeah, and only our 3 jurisdictions, the price will go up. Everyone will remain static.
The way it stands right now is correct.
Yeah.
Those jurisdictions in the past were credited. Normally the commodity had value, or the processing cost was small and the return was big, and now it's reversed. The market is dried up. So the processing cost has gotten high and the value of the commodities has gotten low. So instead of giving you a dividend and you got money back, now you have to pay money in.
So, to address that Atwater doesn't benefit when they recycle and they make money, because that money goes back to those 3 jurisdictions. We didn't recycle, we didn't benefit. So the answer to the question is, you could stop recycling and stop having that problem, or when it's beneficial, which you guys were participating during that time, you benefited from. So we're not looking at getting penalized for the recycling program adjusting for the market. I just want to make sure we got that clear.
Yeah, and our question was, you know, number one, after
we're getting too far off topic, attorney says.
Yeah, I know. I knew she was going to say that.
Yeah,
so I'll just end with, is if we don't recycle, then we could be included in the other rates too, and not have the $143,000. So I don't want to say any more because I don't want to get upset.
And the short version is we are. Stacy and I spoke yesterday. We are trying to get a consultant. We're going to try to expedite the process and go through the RFQ process to bring a professional consultant in to help advise us on all of this, because it's very detailed.
And I appreciate no decision until we get all this done. Thank you.
Okay.
And I'll just add that as part of that process, and something I've been mulling over, is that we could offer the board a workshop on this issue, on our overall diversion programs, once we have a consultant on board, so that we have a venue and an opportunity to discuss this further when we have an expert on board to help us with that.
Real quick, Chair. So I think I understand it. The whole goal here is tonnage diverted, right? That's what we're going after. So the
Yes.
green waste, there's stuff, we're tackling tonnage, and there's a lot of semantics that go along with that.
Okay, let's move on.
Thank you.
Okay, I think you took care of item 23 in there someplace too?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not sure of the numbers. So which one?
Yeah,
is the
master agreement expenditure summary, we did that.
Oh, no, that's this one.
Yeah.
So we had an error in the work order amounts, and I just put those up there on the left-hand column about a third of the way down. Those 2 items, we had not updated the number, so The red is the new or correct number, so we did not exceed the budget in any of the categories. And then I just kind of marked it into two color codes, basically. Green is the expansion or improvements that regarding building a new landfill or associated costs with that. And then the blue is compliance or required things that we have to do and to be in the business. Most of them are related to gas collection systems, which is, you see all of those. That's why we're hoping to do a gas to energy project to help recover these funds in the future. Right now, we're paying for them out of tipping fees. So do you have any questions about this?
Do you have any questions for Brooks? Okay, let's move on to item 24, contract authorizations for Highway 59 landfill gas collection and control system expansion.
Just the background on this is we have a gas migration problem out of the old unlined portion of a Highway 59 landfill, or at least our best guess is that's where it's coming from. We think that underground, when they were putting the landfill in back in the 70s, they probably hit a sand lens, not clay, and then the gas is finding its way out through the sand. But the geology to determine what's happening there is very difficult, and it's kind of it's not a surefire, we know the science and can fix it. So we've been taking this gradual approach of what's least costly and working our way up. So now we're to the point where the state is requiring us to put in more wells, which is the most expensive option because they're permanent and you have to run them basically forever. So this is where the gas migration is on the east side of the property. And then here's the wells that would be associated with hopefully addressing the problem, and we will basically just deflate the balloon with putting in the 38 new wells. And then while we have the contractor on site, we would like to put in 9 more in the area where the valley fill would go. And then we have 5 wells that are either collapsed or not functioning well in the new lined area. So we do all this work at once. And the benefit is hopefully we will be addressing the gas migration problem. We will also be putting in wells for the for the valley fill, and then addressing some wells that need a repair. And instead of doing 3 contracts and 3 mobilization charges and 3 engineering groups to come out and evaluate it, we just do them all at one time. And so the contract, the low bid for this was $790,000, and if you add the 10%, it's $870,000. And then the quality assurance, we have to have an engineer on site while they're doing the borings. You have a geologist taking the samples of the material, making sure that we're in the garbage and not gone through the bottom of the landfill. And so the total cost is $1.2 million. This is a new or amended budget. We have the money to fund it, but we did not put it in the budget because at the time we put the budget together, we were hoping that our other fixes to the gas collection system would work, but they have not. And so my point is, if this does not work, then the state has told us we would be allowed to potentially buy additional property. In other words, we'll expand the footprint of the landfill to the east and approach that property owner. But we haven't done that yet. We're hoping this will work first. The added benefit is that if we get more gas and we can do the UC project, we would get paid for that gas.
Okay. Any public comment? If not, I'll bring it back to the board.
Looking for a motion?
Yeah, we definitely need an action item if there's no discussion. It's, we have 3 different things to act on.
I've got a question, Chair.
Yeah, go ahead.
So if you go back to the well slide.
Yes, sir.
So 35 new wells plus the 11 blue, I think is what you said? 9 blue ones. If we're not successful in capturing this, we still need to purchase a property, right?
Correct.
So we know it's 1.2 for this. If we fail at this, what is the potential purchase bill?
I thought that question might come up, so I did search Zillow because I know the
like acreage.
Yes, and I searched for acreage for recent land purchases, and it didn't come up. So I was just going to see how much, because they purchased a lot of property. That was a ranch or something, and now it's under development, at least the eastern side over by the high school, El Capitan High School. If you've driven to the stoplight that's just north of it, you see that they've been grading that land and putting in where there's going to be roads and drainage and whatever. So that's, of course, that's couple miles away, but I think all that property sold at one time.
Would you just be whatever's on the border?
Yeah, we would just, we would have to do some probes, because we want to make sure we only buy this one time and buy it here, and then the gas is 10 feet past where we bought. So we would do some probes and approach the property owner about doing that. But from what we can see from the aerial photograph, it's actually some wetland area. So it should be a good deal that they would not be able to develop it inexpensively, because they'd have to mitigate that. So what we could kind of come to an agreement is, we'll buy it and own it, but we won't develop it, and they wouldn't be able to use it anyway. So hopefully it's just a buffer from the landfill for whatever is developed down the road.
Great, thank you.
Any other discussion? Okay, we're looking for a motion on item A to authorize the executive director to enter into the contract for $790,000, and to amend the budget to transfer $1.2 million from Project 836 to Project 845, and authorize the director or his designee to accept the work 100% complete and execute the file of completion. Can we take all three in one motion?
Move to approve.
Okay, we have a second by Lloyd, and Director Creighton. Second is the second. Motion by Lloyd, seconded by Director Creighton. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Move on to item 25, the Highway 90 landfill expansion authorization phase to award construction contracts and amend budget projects. Brooks?
Thank you. And this is a request to proceed with the next landfill expansion at Highway 59. And so we are currently, if you've been out there, this is the current phase where we're putting in waste. And so the next phase would be another vertical strip there that would go all the way to the north. But we're only recommending that we build half of it now, because the idea is that in a few years, if we're successful with mitigating the gas migration problem, we can go back and fill the valley fill, which is 15 years of capacity with very little expense as far as the construction of it. So we would want to capture that first, and that would give us time to excavate the northern half here and use that for cover soil, and so we would get the hole dug while we're conducting normal operations. And so we went out to bid for this. It came in at $5.1 million, and with the contingency and the QAQC portion, it's 6.1. We had only budgeted 4.2. Part of this is because we expanded the footprint to make sure we get at least 5 to 7 years out of it, so we have time to do the valley fill. And part of it is because we hoped that the Campus Parkway would excavate the hole for us, but they only took about 100,000 yards out. And then we are also, once you've got the soil in the truck, we figured, why just dump it next door? We have to do a closure project about a mile south on Phase 5, so while you've got it in the truck, rather than double handle it, just drop it off down there for that project. So again, we avoid two movements of the soil. So we rolled that all into one project. And so I think that explains the price increase. But this is about $500,000 an acre. It's about $460,000 an acre, which is about what we paid for the Billy Wright expansion that you just saw completed.
Okay, I'll bring it back to the board. It's an action item. We've got three things to vote on. One, authorize the executive director to enter into a contract for the amount of $5,000,001 for the construction of Phase 1. Amend the budget to increase Project 841 allocation by $1.9 million, and authorized the director or the designee to accept the work when 100% complete.
Motion approved.
Agency. Motion by Director Vallada.
Second.
Second by Director McDaniel. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item 26, the Merced County Regional Waste Management Authority audited financial statements for 2018.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In the 17-18 year, RWA had a really good year. They generated $17 million in revenues, which is up by 26% from the previous years. As Brooks stated, he's having some capital projects, so we were able to move $6.1 million from our operating fund to capital projects to fund some of the projects. RWA also reduced their long-term liability by $2.4 million. The reduction was to eliminate the net pension liability. Per GASB 68, a one-year look at our payroll back period is used to determine the current year's net liability. So since all the employees were moved under MCAG as of 2016, in 2017 there was no payroll under the Merced. And the last thing is there was no recommendation by the auditors. Any questions?
Any questions? If not, I'll look for a motion to accept the auditor's report.
I'll move for approval.
Moved by Director McDaniel. Second by Director Aguiar. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Item 27, the Executive Director's Report. Stacy?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll just mention that between now and our next board meeting, we have several directors that will be participating in the CalCog conference in Yosemite, weather permitting. No, really, I think the conference is going on, but it might be a bit of an adventure. It's March 14th through the 17th, and we have directors Oliveira and McDaniel in their roles as chair and vice chair, directors Pereira and Hogue as their participation on the representation for the board on the CalCog board of directors for Director Pereira and our alternate with Director Hogue. And then I believe in January, the board selected Director Creighton to be the at-large representative for the conference. So we look forward to that, and I'm sure many of us will report out all that we learned at the March meeting.
Okay, that's it. Okay, let's go with the board reports. We'll start with Director Velata.
Nothing to report, sir.
Lloyd?
Nothing to report, sir.
Paul?
Nothing to report, sir.
Darren?
Nothing to report, sir.
Juan?
I just want to say thank you, Stacy and staff, for organizing that orientation last Friday. It was very, very beneficial, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Director Murphy?
Yeah, just a report on a couple meetings I had since our last meeting. I was in Washington, D.C. for the U.S. Conference of Mayors, and Mayor Brand from Fresno and I had the opportunity to meet with Senator Feinstein. There were a number of topics of conversation, but one that I think is relevant for this body is we talked about applications for Build Grant. And so I shared with the senator the Atwater Merced Expressway project, and mentioned that it's a Merced County project, not a Merced City project, but we're certainly all in the same ecosystem and would all benefit from the project. She was very supportive of the project, and sort of towards the end of the conversation, it turned to what's the appropriate amount to ask on the build grant side. You want to get as much as you can, but you want to be competitive as well. And so we had that discussion. Essentially what it came down to is Fresno is asking for $9 million for their Veterans Boulevard project. I believe the county's project is $77 million for Atwater Merced Expressway. And what the senator said was, she said, don't make it more than 10 million, and because she said that's going to be too much. And then she said, if you make it 9 million, then I'll provide a letter of support. So I think that needs to be the number, just based on her guidance, if you want her support anyway, which carries a lot of weight. So that was the first meeting. While I was in DC, something that's I think relevant again for this body is, as we go to larger, metropolitan areas in the state or around the country, there's a lot of micro transit that's occurring in the form of scooter rentals. And so when I was back there, I actually tried 3 different scooter brands. So you download the app and put your credit card in. I do think that that's the way that that transportation is moving in this country. In the more urbanized areas, I think that it will eventually make its way to Merced, but it was very handy. And I tried 3 different ones just because I wanted to kind of compare and contrast, and they'll have different advantages and so forth. But it was faster than an Uber. It was certainly faster than walking. And for those that are going on the One Voice trip, I actually think it would be worthwhile to try. Because I think that we need to be thinking about not just how to get from point A to point B, city to city, but also first mile, last mile type things. And it was certainly very, very handy. The last thing to report on is I was fortunate to have a meeting with our governor the day after his State of the State address. So he asked if I, along with Mayor Brand from Fresno and Mayor Go from Bakersfield, would meet with him to just discuss topics that are important to the Central Valley. It was the day after his State of the State address, so there was certainly a lot of talk in the news cycle about high-speed rail, and that was part of the discussion, but we touched on other things like homelessness and clean drinking water. He had just been in Parlier earlier that day at a school that has water that the kids can't drink. So I just wanted to point that out. He went out of his way in the State of the State address to really say that the Central Valley needs some more investment. And he doesn't have any real tie here. And it's not necessarily the politically motivated thing to do, because I don't think he needs our votes. He didn't need them in the election. But I've had now five meetings with him in the last 5 months, and especially since his State of the State, he's been very public about wanting to make more investments in the Central Valley, saying that these communities, we know these communities are more dynamic than maybe sometimes people think. So just wanted to report on that.
Thank you. Director Lohr.
Thank you. So I have to share that when we were in San Diego for a conference, Director McDaniel, Director Silvera, and not Director Pereira, our CEO, Jim Brown, did scooter to dinner, and we scootered back, and it was fun. I did it in heels, so it's possible. And we had a short conversation about how we might bring scooters to Merced, and I'm really glad that Director Murphy brought that up. And my family will be really excited because they tried out the scooters, and it was very fast. Definitely faster than an Uber or a taxi, and you got from point A to point B fairly quickly. So I am looking forward to having scooters in Merced. I too attended the MCAG orientation last week, and I appreciate staff making the presentation fun and easy to understand. We were in the room for about 3 hours, and it didn't feel like 3 hours, so that was great. And I want to publicly acknowledge Mary Michael. She sent out a survey afterwards, and the survey was probably the easiest that I've ever used. So it was better than Google Forms, and it was better than SurveyMonkey. So really appreciated that, because as busy folks, filling out surveys is kind of the last thing that we do, and so that was very easy to use. So thank you. And then lastly, I am a part of a planning committee. We are planning a women's symposium called We Are Here, Saturday, March 23rd at Gateway Gardens in Merced. And it's geared towards women, but everyone is invited to attend, and the focus is encouraging mentoring, health and well-being, as well as promoting alliance building and civic involvement, and then championing the advancement of women. And Director Hogue will be one of our panelists during the Policy on Politics panel. Many of you probably don't know, but she is an elected official as well as a business owner, and so that really brings a different perspective to women here in the Central Valley. So I have a flyer, and I can share it out if you all like. If you all would like, please invite your constituents and friends, family members to join us. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, no other business before it. I'll adjourn the meeting. Our next meeting will be on March 21st at the City of Los Banos. Thank you all for attending.